Hello, Dave here with RadiationHealthRisks.com. I appreciate you stopping by. Today's video is actually the second video in a series of videos that I did filming. I filmed them at the home of David Gilmore, a YouTuber. His YouTube channel is LDS Prepper and his website is LDSPrepper.com. If you are interested in preparedness at all, you'll definitely want to check his stuff out. He's got an amazing setup. He's lives on a couple of acres, and he's got solar panels that produce more than enough electricity than what his home needs even in the winter. He's got buried propane tanks with multiple years storage of propane. He's got greenhouses that he heats thermally from the warm ground beneath the greenhouses. He's got an amazing setup. So if you're interested in preparedness, check that out. Anyway, I've been a subscriber to his YouTube channel for 5 or 6 years at least. And since moving to Eastern Idaho, I now don't live that far from him. And so I've been able to go meet him a few times and talk to him. And one time when I was over there, I was telling him a little bit about EMF radiation, and I asked him, since I knew he had solar panels, if he'd ever had his house tested for dirty electricity, because anytime you manipulate electricity, like changing DC to AC, it causes dirty electricity, which is highly toxic to go across the wiring in a home. And so anyway, he started researching on his own the different kinds of EMF radiation, and he got particularly concerned about that, but mainly about the Wi-Fi router in his wife's office because it's so close to where she works all the time. And so a week or two ago, he called me and asked me if I would mind bringing my meters over and testing his house to see what kind of a problem he had. And so the first video in this series, which if you haven't watched, you'll probably want to go watch that first, is about us going through his home and testing his home for dirty electricity. We found that the solar panels were definitely causing dirty electricity, but he had some other issues that he's going to have to diagnose, and we'll show what the conclusions are as we solve those other problems in future videos. So that was real interesting. You'll probably want to go watch that. This video is going to be on his main concern of testing for RF radiation, which is anything wireless emits RF radiation, radio frequency radiation, microwave radiation, and his Wi-Fi router being right next to his wife in her office. And so that's what we're going to go through in this video.
So I know Dave because he has a portable solar generator that he bought for my son, and we both raise quail. But as I've built that relationship, I found out that he knows a whole lot more about EMF than I do. And so I started doing some research on my own and became kind of alarmed and concerned that I am completely ignorant on what kind of EMF frequencies or impact is happening here in my house. And my primary concern is that we set up our router for our property, and the best location for that router seemed to be my wife's office. So my wife is literally 6-7 feet away from that router, and I'm concerned what adverse effects that may be happening on her health. So I called up Dave. He was nice enough to come over, and we're going to do some testing today. This is raw footage. You're going to see exactly what's happening in my house, and we're going to see if we need to be concerned or if we're perfectly fine.
I brought several models of Wi-Fi router guards. Before we started this video, his router, we tried to see if it would fit in there. His router's too big. So we'll be able to test and show you the radiation that's coming from it, but we won't be able to show you how a Wi-Fi router guard blocks that. Normally it blocks about 90 to 95% of the RF radiation. I have other videos if you go to my YouTube channel where I've tested routers that fit into the box, so you can see the before and after difference. The general thing is, in a Wi-Fi router guard, it seems like once, because I have one in my office too, but I have it about 10 feet away from me, and I get hardly anything, I mean, like next to nothing at my desk. And so So anyway, that's what we're going to test is the areas in his house where he has Wi-Fi devices and RF radiation. Okay, here we are in Dave's wife's office, and we've got everything turned off so that there's no Wi-Fi signal, so we can turn things on and test it. And I've got this meter here. I like to just mention what it is. It's a HFC 30, or I always say it wrong, HF35C high frequency analyzer, which basically means it reads RF radiation. This is my favorite meter. I'll put a link below the video in case anybody's interested in it. But the reason I like this is because it's directional. And so it's easier when you're testing things. It's one I've always used. It's my favorite. Okay, so point at the camera up there if you would for a minute, Dave, and show them where the Wi-Fi router is. The Wi-Fi router is off. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on and let it settle down really quick. So it's pretty much settled down to 4. It jumps up a little bit because it's probably picking up things from either neighbor's Wi-Fi or something else in the house. So you can see right now as we shine the around the laptop, and she's got a wireless mouse and keyboard, that we're not really picking anything up. And as I point it up towards the Wi-Fi router, we're not picking anything up. Okay, I'm going to narrate this part for a minute because for some reason when we filmed this, the film was fine, but there was no sound. So what you see David doing is he's turning the Wi-Fi on the laptop so you can see, and now you can see the meters jumped up into the 200s, and I'm a foot or two away from the laptop. So showing how much radiation his wife is getting just from the laptop by itself. Now David's going to pick up his mouse, and I'm going to test the radiation coming from the mouse. And you'll see it jumps up in the 200-300s too. And what was interesting is each of these devices made a slightly different sound on my meter. That's what I like about that meter is different frequencies make different sounds on it. It's kind of cool. Now David's testing his cell phone, and you watch how the numbers spike up as he turns on the cell phone. It gets really high, and he's not in the middle of a call. That's just the cell phone checking for signal and communicating with cell towers and so forth. So there's a lot of radiation that comes from her cell phone, which she always has sitting right next to her desk as well. And then he shuts it off and it drops down to nothing. Okay, here what you'll notice is we're checking out his wife's printer. David just turned the printer on, and it's going to take a minute for the Wi-Fi to kick on the printer. But what you'll notice is when you'll be able to tell when the Wi-Fi kicks on the printer, because my meter will max out, meaning there's more RF radiation coming out of that printer than my meter will even read. You can tell when it maxes out because it changes to a 1 on the left-hand side instead of all the numbers. There you go. It maxed out the meter right there. So then he'll turn off the printer here in a second, and all of that reading will go away. So we forget that all these things that are wireless around us are pelting us with Wi-Fi radiation.
And so my wife is in the center of all of this. I mean, literally, if you put strings and measured, she's right in the middle of all of this. And this is what my concern is. It'll take a few seconds for that to warm up.
When there's nothing electrical on, usually most houses are 2 to 4 to 5 microwatts per square meter.
So we do have these LED lights on, and they don't seem to be a problem.
Yeah, they're not wireless. That would be more dirty electricity.
Oh, okay.
This is real. This is as we're doing it. So that's probably helpful for everybody. There we go. Maxing out the meter. This meter picks up to 2,000 microwatts per meter or per square meter. Now I'm back behind her desk. So from right here where she's sitting, a minute ago when we were here, it was
So let me sit here so you can kind of get an idea. We've got the Wi-Fi on. Now I'm going to turn on the Bluetooth that she normally has on, right? We're going to turn her mobile phone on. And we're going to turn on the printer. Now, it may look like I don't love my wife because I've got her sitting here in the death zone, but I do love her. That's why we're actually doing this test, and Dave's come over to check this out for me.
And you can hear all the different sounds this meter is making. That's another reason I like it, is it makes different sounds for different frequencies.
I just turned on the mouse.
Okay.
So this is kind of her normal working environment right here. So you can see right where I'm sitting, the kind of impact that she's getting from all these devices.
Yeah, she's getting bathed in RF radiation.
She should have a can.
Okay, I'm going to turn that off. If this were my office, what would I do to correct the problem? First thing is the wireless mouse I would get rid of. Well, the most important thing is I would take the cable and I would run the cable to a part of the house that people are not in constantly. And that's where I would put the Wi-Fi router. And then I would put the Wi-Fi router in a router box. I'm not sure if they make a router box. I have the large and it didn't fit in there. So you might have to make your own out of like a box with aluminum screen or something from the hardware store, or I'll look around and see if I can find a bigger one for you too. So that's the one thing, is get that out of the office somewhere else and then put it in a Wi-Fi router guard of some sort. Now on my website, if you've watched any of my other videos or gone to my website, this is the large Wi-Fi router guard, and then this is a smaller one here. We tried, his router is too big. It wouldn't fit in either of those. That's the first router I've seen that didn't fit in this large one. But some sort of a metal box. Here's one other one. This is actually the Wi-Fi router cover. I have a video on that on my website too. It's basically the same thing, just a little different design, different manufacturer. But the Wi-Fi router, and I have a Wi-Fi router in my office too, but I have it about 10, 12 feet away from where I sit. And when it's in one of these Wi-Fi router guards, when I'm measuring with a meter like this, it's literally 2 or 3 or 4. Every once in a while it'll bounce up to 50, but I feel pretty safe. And one other thing is, almost all Wi-Fi routers, if you hardwire your internet so you don't need Wi-Fi, you can actually log into the settings on your computer on your router. Your internet service can tell you how to do that, and you can turn off the Wi-Fi so it's not emitting any Wi-Fi at all. That's obviously the best solution. And this is another solution, and I have this also on my Wi-Fi router. I have a video on it and an article on it on RadiationHealthRisks.com. This is an Asus Wi-Fi router, but what makes it low EMF is this company, JRS Echo Wireless. You can buy the router with the firmware. JRS puts a firmware on there already, or you can buy the router separate if you think you can get a better deal, and then just order the firmware from them. But what this does is, you heard the noise that this makes. When I test my router at home, it sounds like a machine gun. If you've watched my other videos, like that. And then when I switch to testing this router, it's just like dup, dup, dup. So it's sending out the same power of signal, and it's just not sending it out constantly. It's not sending it out as often. The speeds seem to be about the same. These routers come adjusted really low. So if you want the same power, you'll want to adjust the settings. But anyway, this go watch my other video on this one and you'll get the details on it. But this is another possible solution rather than the router guard. The other thing I would do is I would hardwire. By far the best solution for a computer is to hardwire it so you're not running off of Wi-Fi. That would solve the Wi-Fi problem. And then we talked about the mouse, getting a corded mouse. The cell phone that you have, what I like to do, I have one of these little, and I show this on the website too, but this is a little conductive metal basket that if you put the cell phone in it like that and then just set it, you want radiation will come out the open top, so you want to just set it up above you a little bit. So I have a shelf and I just set it there, my shelf, and it's about 4 feet away, so I can get it when I want to, but that way I'm not having the radiation around me. With the printer, what I would do is just only turn the Wi-Fi on when you're going to print and then turn it off. Just turn that on and off.
Would you recommend putting a cable on the printer instead of Wi-Fi?
Yeah, if you got by far the best way, that's a good point. By far the best way is to hardwire it so that you don't have to have any Wi-Fi at all. So that's, if you're running anything that's Wi-Fi, that's RF radiation, and you're getting radiated.
So our issues were with the printer and the router, the mouse, the phone. It's all because it's coming off the Wi-Fi. So if the highest priority is minimizing the EMF from the router, and then turning off Bluetooth on the phone, turning off Bluetooth on the computer, using a corded headphone instead of a Bluetooth headphone, corded printer, putting a cell phone in some kind of a EMF Faraday cage, basically, and that will dramatically improve the health conditions in the office.
Okay, so here we are. I don't know if you can see this in the camera. This is a Wi-Fi booster that Dave has. And when I turn on the router, you can see it's horrible to listen to. It maxes out the router. I mean, it maxes out the meter. So the solution to that would be RF radiation dissipates with distance. So I was telling Dave if he could, because he needs that booster to boost his Wi-Fi to go out to things that he runs out on his property. And so what I was telling him is if he could move it like to an outside, maybe an outlet on the outside of the garage or something far away from where everybody lives, it would probably dissipate enough that he wouldn't pick it up with the meter. We'd have to test that to find out. So this is real. We're testing you live here. So if you put it out far enough, that might solve the problem. If you wanted some added protection, if you plugged it into an outlet where it was possible, you could take an aluminum screen from like a hardware store and just cut out a hole for the outlet and paste it to the wall there, and that would block almost the rest of it. But the main thing is getting distance between the booster and the living where you're spending time. So. Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. We're out here by his power meter. I've got this high frequency analyzer turned on, and as you can see, his meter is not picking up anything significantly. It's a net meter designed to deal with his solar panels that are on top. So his isn't emitting any RF radiation, so that's good. If it was, and if yours is a normal digital meter or a smart meter, yours will be. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see where I've tested several of those. And I just wanted to show this really quick as a solution. There's two different brands. One's called the Smart Meter Guard, and the other one's a Smart Meter Cover. I have those videos where I test both of those. But you just put that over like that, and you cinch it up like that, and it blocks pretty much all of the RF radiation that comes off the meter. The radiation can't go through the metal box, but it can go around. And so when you have a smart meter, we also test from the other side of the wall, and it's not as powerful as testing from here, but you still get a significant amount, typically, especially with a smart meter, that goes into the house. And these things block that. And then the other problem that smart meters cause, this one won't, but a smart meter will, and that is the dirty electricity, because it connects to all the circuits in the house. And so similar to what we were dealing with Dave's solar system. So that's how you solve the problem if you have a smart meter. Okay, well, hopefully you're getting some value out of this video, and if you are, please remember to smash that like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, getting our videos seen a lot more. We always really appreciate it when you guys do that. And also, if you want to see future content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell. That way you'll be notified when we do future videos. Appreciate you watching this video.
Yes, so I also have a YouTube channel. You can go to LDSprepper.com and watch my videos on water filtration, heirloom seeds, off-grid solar. We're off-grid here on our homestead. Quail,
Greenhouses.
Geothermal greenhouses. So anything to do with preparedness. I did something that was kind of fun, and I turned off the power for 7 days, and no water, no gas, nothing, and try to live off my preps. That was not something I'd recommend doing all the time, but it was an eye-opener. So how to prepare when you don't know what to prepare for. But one of the things I know that I need to prepare for is EMF pollution in my home, and so I'm very grateful for Dave coming over here, taking the time today, testing out my house, and giving me some great recommendations so I can make it a healthier, happier homestead.
Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video.